Using a royal title doesn't mean you're untouchable. It means the spotlight's on you even more. If Meghan Markle keeps cashing in on her royal ties, she's the one who faced the heat, both legally and morally. Meanwhile, across the channel, the Princess of Wales glided through Dior's Paris headquarters like royalty in motion, the air thick with the scent of perfume, wealth, and legacy. Then, in early December, something mysterious happened. A sealed package, sleek, silent, and dripping with elegance, was sent out. Its meaning? Impossible to miss. It was from none other than Catherine, the Princess of Wales. What started as a graceful nod to tradition suddenly became the spark for one of the most whispered-about royal showdowns in fashion history. Within days, word spread that Meghan Markle had been quietly turned away from the very same Dior doors. The brand, caught in a storm of glamour and rivalry, had to pick sides between two women, two symbols of royalty, and two completely different versions of power. This wasn't about business deals or glossy PR campaigns. It was something much deeper. On December 3, 2025, a perfectly curated Dior gift box landed at Kensington Palace, straight from the hands of Maria Grazia Chiuri, Dior's creative director herself. Inside was a couture masterpiece, a custom clutch embroidered with HRH, the Princess of Wales initials, along with a handwritten note praising a woman who embodies timeless grace, quiet power, and royal elegance in its purest form. The note came signed by Maria Grazia Chiuri herself, and insiders say she called Catherine a timeless icon in an era drowning in temporary idols. Dior's creative team had long admired Catherine's fashion sense, quiet yet powerful, modern but still echoing royal heritage. But this gesture, it wasn't just admiration, it was a message loaded with meaning, strategy, and symbolism. According to whispers inside Dior, the gift wasn't random. It was part of a discreet cultural tribute, a private initiative honoring Princess Diana's legacy of elegance, compassion, and quiet influence. The plan was to merge the past and the future through Catherine's image. No flashy press drops, no PR noise, just pure class wrapped in couture. Catherine's reply matched the energy perfectly. Through her Kensington Palace spokesperson, she sent back a handwritten note overflowing with gratitude, thanking Dior for its artistry and its deep cultural values. She also made it clear there'd be no commercial tie-ins or brand deals. Staying true to her non-commercial royal duties, she respectfully declined any formal collaboration. But behind palace walls, she reportedly expressed real joy at being recognized, not just as a royal, but as someone carrying forward a legacy of dignity and meaning. As one aide put it, Catherine summed it up perfectly. It's not about wearing the crown, it's about wearing it well. But peace didn't last long. Less than 48 hours after that elegant exchange, Meghan Markle touched down in Paris for what her reps called a private fashion-focused trip. Dior executives, however, were already braced for impact. According to an internal memo dated November 25, 2025, staff were warned that a potential unscheduled VIP appearance might take place from the Duchess of Sussex. The memo made it clear no appointments were on the books, and any communication needed to follow tight legal protocol. When Meghan arrived in a sleek chauffeured car with a stylist and a small camera crew in tow, she reportedly requested a couture fitting, insisting she had a pre-scheduled meeting. But when Dior checked the system, her name wasn't listed, no invitation existed, no record of a fitting had ever been arranged. The response was calm, firm, and very French. No scandal, no shouting, no drama. Just Dior's head of protocol stepping forward with poise, saying softly, "We apologize, madam. We have no appointment under that name." Those 6 words flipped the whole room. What happened next wasn't a mix-up, it was strategic chaos dressed in couture. Sources close to Dior and their PR agency revealed that Meghan's team had been working for months behind the scenes, pitching her as the next face of Dior's upcoming campaign. one supposedly inspired by Princess Diana's global charm, but reimagined with Meghan's bold, modern disruptor energy. A leaked document even carried a tagline that said it all: legacy, rewritten, reimagined, reclaimed. Sounds dramatic, right? But Dior insiders weren't buying it. Reports say the proposal was shot down immediately, considered too risky, too off-brand, and way too likely to spark controversy. One senior Dior executive allegedly summed it up with a cutting remark now echoing through Parisian fashion circles: "We dress legends, we don't manufacture them through controversy." But the drama didn't stop there. Just hours after Meghan's polite rejection at Dior's doors, the internet started buzzing. Fashion blogs and influencer accounts suddenly began posting about a supposed collaboration. Hashtags like Meghan in Dior, non-Duchess of Style, and Legacy in Motion popped up across X and Instagram. It looked like the start of something huge, but there was a twist. It wasn't real. Investigative reporters from Le Mans' fashion desk dug deep and found that many of those posts were traced back to digital marketing agencies connected to Meghan and Harry's own foundation. Automated influencer campaigns in both North America and in the UK had pushed the same narrative, trying to create the illusion of a partnership that Dior had already turned down flat. Finally, Dior had enough. In early November, the brand quietly but firmly ended the speculation. Through a crisp statement sent only to select European editors, Dior declared no current or planned partnership exists with the Duchess of Sussex. Just like that. Short, sharp, and impossible to misinterpret. No extra words, no emotion. In the language of couture, that silence was the final curtain drop. What began as a graceful tribute had now turned into a quiet brand war. One Catherine never started, yet one she clearly came out winning. Fashion editors from Vogue Paris to the Times style section couldn't help but applaud her restraint and elegance. One editor said, "She understands the royal code and never oversteps." Meanwhile, Meghan was still moving like a freelancer in a world where royal duty is meant to be earned, not managed like a brand deal. The contrast couldn't be clearer. Then, on November 28, 2025, Clarence House broke its silence with something rarely seen, a formal memo carrying the king's authority. It read, "Only active working members of the royal family appointed by His Majesty the King are authorized to represent royal identity, name, or association. The Duchess of Sussex holds no such appointment." The words were polite, but sharp as steel. Behind palace walls, things were even more serious. A private legal review led by the Lord Chamberlain's office found Meghan's efforts to use the Sussex title in commercial contexts to be misleading. It wasn't classified as a crime, but it was labeled a case of misrepresentation of role and function. Catherine's next move stunned everyone. 3 days after Dior publicly denied any partnership with Meghan, the Princess of Wales made a quiet yet powerful statement that left both the press and the public speechless. It happened at a women leadership panel at Somerset House on November 29, 2025. When a journalist asked off-script, "Does the princess feel misrepresented in recent comparisons with the Duchess of Sussex?" Catherine paused. The air went still. Then she answered with calm precision, "When one holds a position tied to public duty, it is not the name that carries the role. It is the role that defines the responsibility. Titles are not licenses, they are obligations." The entire room froze. It wasn't just a royal soundbite, it was a declaration of authority, a gentle but unmistakable reminder of where royal duty ends and celebrity branding begins. Legal experts later called it a verbal strike delivered with surgical precision. What many people forget is that Catherine isn't just elegance and poise. She's educated, trained, and deeply aware of governance. With her background in art history and formal legal studies from the University of St. Andrews, she knows the rules inside and out. Insiders confirmed that after Meghan's social media posts hinting at a Dior connection, Catherine had consulted royal legal counsel. The verdict?
No lawsuit necessary, but the incident was logged internally as passive commercial impersonation. It sent a message louder than any courtroom could. Using a royal title isn't a free pass, it's a responsibility, and with that comes consequences. One aide who was present later shared Catherine's private reflection on the issue, saying her worry wasn't about brand confusion, it was about duty being diluted. Catherine reportedly said, "If the line between personal ambition and national representation is erased, we risk turning the monarchy into marketing. That is not tradition." And with that, she closed the chapter.
Just months earlier, luxury brands couldn't wait to work with her. Now, endorsement requests that once zipped through inboxes were suddenly getting flagged or ignored. Meghan, once considered a brand powerhouse, was now being handled like a reputational risk. One insider revealed that during her time as a working royal, her team had requested Paris Fashion Week attendance, but that request was quietly pulled before it even reached the press list. Chanel reportedly took things even further, denying her access to its Winter Atelier tour, a space usually reserved for global ambassadors and high-end philanthropists. An anonymous stylist from a top Paris agency didn't hold back, saying, "It's not that people dislike her, it's that no one wants the drama." Catherine brings timelessness, Meghan brings headlines, and in couture, time always wins. That line echoed across the industry. Then came the royal mic drop. On December 1st, the Royal Communications Office released another official statement, reinforcing what had already been made clear. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex are no longer working members of the royal family and are not authorized to represent or negotiate on behalf of the Crown, its institutions, or its legacy. Every word in that statement was deliberate, especially legacy, a term that had appeared throughout Meghan's Dior proposal. Palace sources later confirmed that King Charles personally approved the language, determined to lock in constitutional clarity around non-working royals and shield the monarchy from any casual monetization through influencer-style ventures or global media spin. The energy shift was instant. The Daily Telegraph praised Catherine's elegant composure, calling her a woman of principle over pageantry. Meanwhile, Le Figaro ran a headline that caught everyone's attention: "Le dé de l'héritière," the heiress's silence. The piece described Catherine as a royal whose restraint spoke louder than words, and whose quiet authority redefined modern relevance. Meghan's attempt to frame herself as the modern face of Diana's legacy, however, didn't land the way her team expected. Critics labeled it tone-deaf and commercially opportunistic. One viral tweet summed it up with icy precision: "Catherine embodies Diana's spirit. Meghan tried to wear her silhouette." The fallout didn't stop her from showing up, though. On December 1st, 2025, Meghan appeared at Balenciaga's runway show, arriving with a small security team and a discreet digital crew filming her every move. Under different circumstances, it could have been a major Paris comeback moment, but this time, the atmosphere was tense, almost frozen. She wore a long, tailored ivory coat with sharp shoulders and barely any jewelry, chic, polished, and clearly styled to command attention. Cameras flashed relentlessly, but behind those lenses, the whispers were louder than the applause. A fashion editor sitting 3 rows back said it bluntly: "She walked in like a headliner, but no one turned their heads." Multiple insiders later confirmed what the silence suggested. Balenciaga hadn't officially invited Meghan at all. Her appearance was arranged through private intermediaries and third-party PR contacts, not through the fashion house itself. What might have been a red carpet triumph turned into a quiet signal from the luxury world. In fashion, perception is everything, and when the narrative shifts, even the brightest spotlight can suddenly feel cold. Balenciaga didn't dress her, didn't seat her, and had no link to her appearance, none at all. Her outfit, though styled to impress, was pieced together by a London-based stylist known for mid-tier PR campaigns, not high fashion houses. The only confirmed designer item she wore? A pair of black Balenciaga pumps from a past season.
In couture circles, that detail wasn't minor, it was monumental. Because in fashion, wearing isn't the same as being dressed. A former LVMH consultant summed it up perfectly. You can buy the look, but you can't buy the legitimacy. The message hit hard. Meghan had shown up to a club where her key no longer worked. Witnesses inside the Balenciaga show described a chill in the air as she sat poised for the cameras, surrounded by noticeable empty seats. Editors who once flocked to her at Givenchy events now kept their distance. No designers approached, no stylists leaned in to chat. One British beauty director put it simply, it wasn't hostility, it was absence. And in fashion, that silence is the loudest rejection of all. What was meant to be a reassertion of influence among couture elites quickly turned into an awkward reminder of how much ground she had lost. Balenciaga, still nursing its own PR wounds from earlier controversies, wasn't about to get caught in another media storm. Hours after the show ended, Meghan's team was reportedly seen filming late-night footage across Paris, cinematic, moody B-roll for an upcoming project. One clip, however, raised eyebrows. It featured a brief moment driving through the Pont de l'Alma tunnel, the same tragic site where Princess Diana lost her life in 1997. Some called it pure coincidence. Others saw it as a calculated attempt to draw emotional parallels. French media wasted no time responding. Le Parisien published a headline that stunned readers: Héritage profané, legacy profaned. Talk show hosts debated the decision, questioning whether the imagery was simply poor judgment or an intentional echo of Diana's story. One veteran Parisian stylist who had worked with Dior in the 2000s didn't mince words. It felt like she was trying to borrow something intangible. Parisians can tell when something sacred is being used for spectacle. The backlash wasn't explosive, but it was icy. Instead of outrage, there was retreat. Within 24 hours, two fashion brands quietly pulled planned influencer collaborations that featured Meghan-linked content. A niche style podcast scrapped an upcoming episode about her fashion journey, citing alignment shifts. The withdrawal was silent but sharp, a soft freeze across the luxury scene. Meanwhile, back in the UK, Catherine said absolutely nothing, but her timing said everything. On December 2, 2025, Kensington Palace released photos of her attending a children's mental health art exhibition. She wore a timeless cream coat dress by British designer Amelia Wickstead, a masterclass in subtle elegance and heritage tailoring. No mentions of Dior, no comments about Meghan, just quiet composure and purpose. Yet fashion media across Europe couldn't help drawing the comparison. Headlines lit up social feeds, while Meghan stages, Catherine leads. One viral post split the moment perfectly, side-by-side photos of Meghan at Balenciaga and Catherine at the children's hospice. The caption hit like a statement piece. One builds an image, one builds a legacy. Even inside Dior's headquarters, the numbers told the story. According to leaked brand mood reports, Dior saw a 30% spike in positive sentiment across key markets, including the UK, France, and South Korea, within days of Catherine's appearance. While Meghan's Paris moment faded under scrutiny, Catherine's quiet grace only amplified her influence, proof that in the world of power and image, authenticity doesn't shout, it simply stands tall. After the Dior tribute to Catherine quietly became known, there were no deals, no hashtags, no glossy posts, just alignment, effortless and natural. By mid-December, it was clear her influence had grown far beyond fashion or even title. While Meghan chased visibility, Catherine had become something deeper, a symbol of legacy, discipline, and modern royal grace. She didn't have to market herself, her restraint did the talking. A senior fashion director summed it up perfectly in Business of Fashion. Brands aren't chasing attention anymore, they're chasing values that last. Catherine gives that in every thread she wears. And maybe that's the lesson Dior understood before anyone else. Elegance doesn't need endorsement. It was silence, not statements, that shattered the illusion. Meanwhile, social media exploded with criticism over Meghan's Dior fallout and that controversial nighttime filming at the Pont de l'Alma tunnel. Behind palace walls, however, the tone wasn't vengeful, it was procedural. The British royal family began quietly mobilizing to draw firm boundaries, not to embarrass anyone, but to protect the monarchy's institutional integrity. In an era where image and influence mix dangerously with legacy, the royals treated this moment like a constitutional checkpoint. On December 3, 2025, a private session was held at Clarence House. King Charles III, Princess Anne, and the Prince of Wales in attendance. Insiders said the meeting wasn't about gossip, it was about representational sovereignty. The discussion focused on dignity, precedent, and how royal identity should be protected in a hyper-commercial world. At the center of that meeting sat one delicate issue: Meghan's repeated use of the Sussex title in ways that blurred the line between duty and branding. According to aides briefed on the session, the room's focus was sharp. What's the moral and legal difference between holding a title and marketing one? One insider put it bluntly: there are very few lines left in the public's perception of royalty. If we don't defend those few, we surrender everything.
The issue wasn't just about Dior, it was about a growing pattern. Unauthorized imagery suggesting royal backing, PR narratives crafted to imply official recognition, and a steady effort to position Meghan as a modern alternative royal symbol. Princess Anne, known for her directness, reportedly made the clearest point: either titles represent duty and boundaries, or they become currency. Allow the latter, and we reduce ourselves to content. Her words drew quiet, unanimous agreement around the table. By the next morning, King Charles had authorized a formal clarification on royal title usage. The statement was carefully reviewed by Royal Legal Counsel and cleared for public release on December 4, 2025. It read, "Titles conferred by the sovereign are held in trust, with the expectation of service and integrity. Any use of royal styles or titles in commercial, promotional, or representational contexts must receive prior approval from the royal household. No such authorization has been granted to the Duke or Duchess of Sussex." No names were mentioned, but the message was unmistakable. British media moved fast. The Telegraph led with the headline, "Crown closes door on Meghan's brand games." The Times took a more institutional tone, calling it "Monarchy defines its boundaries, a doctrine for the modern era." But what caught observers off guard wasn't the king's statement, it was Catherine's quiet reinforcement of it. During a December panel at the Royal Foundation's Ethics and Leadership Forum, she made a deliberate, precise comment that left the audience hanging on her words. In every institution, clarity protects legacy. The misrepresentation of role, especially for personal gain, doesn't just erode trust, it cheapens history. Coming from Catherine, a woman trained in both art history and legal governance, the words weren't casual, they were calculated, rooted in understanding. Her statement wasn't confrontation, it was confirmation. A reminder that grace can carry the same power as law when spoken at the right moment. By that point, the contrast couldn't be ignored. Catherine stood as the quiet architect of stability, while Meghan's moves kept being read as image plays. One stayed grounded in duty, the other seemed caught in narrative. And in the monarchy's delicate balance between heritage and headlines, clarity had just become the new crown jewel. A former Royal Foundation advisor later described Catherine's words as an academic argument disguised as a moral stance. The power of her comment wasn't in how loudly it was said, but in how precisely it landed. Behind closed doors, senior aides to William and Catherine got to work, quietly drafting what would soon be known as the Windsor Representation Principles, a new internal guideline that would shape the future of royal image and identity in the modern media age. The draft laid down clear, firm boundaries. No royal titles used for personal or commercial profit without explicit approval.
No images or partnerships that imply royal endorsement unless officially sanctioned, and absolutely no media phrasing suggesting active royal representation without consent from the crown. While the document wasn't technically legally binding across borders, it served as a moral compass for global media, brands, and institutions, essentially drawing a line between those who represent the monarchy and those who do not. The move wasn't just about image control, it was about defining the monarchy's post-Diana, post-Meghan identity in the influencer age, and the ripple effects came fast. Within 48 hours of the court circular being released, two major fashion houses, Valentino and Bottega Veneta, updated their internal PR policies. They added a new clause: all heritage campaign ambassadors must have verifiable records of public duty alignment, a quiet but powerful shift. One French fashion executive said it best anonymously: "The world is watching royalty differently now. Catherine set the tone, Meghan tried to change it. The industry chose." By mid-December, the difference between the two women wasn't just social, it had become structural. Catherine moved within legacy, Meghan tried to rebrand it. But in both monarchy and couture, structure always outlasts spectacle. Still, Meghan didn't back down. If anyone thought she viewed the Dior rejection as final, they were mistaken. Behind the scenes, her team began circulating a new proposal, Project Her Grace, pitched to high-end fashion houses across Europe and North America. The concept was bold, even provocative. Mood boards drew heavily from Princess Diana's most iconic fashion moments: the black revenge dress, the Angola safari coat, the midnight blue velvet gown she wore at the White House. But this wasn't just aesthetic, it was personal. The proposal framed Meghan as the next global symbol of royal compassion, political courage, and timeless elegance, explicitly drawing visual contrasts between her and Catherine. One image paired Meghan at the UN headquarters with Catherine at a British military parade. The messaging was deliberate. Where Catherine represented tradition, Meghan would represent transformation. But within hours of its quiet circulation, the project imploded. On December 6, 2025, a redacted version of the Her Grace pitch was leaked to the press by a whistleblower inside a global branding firm linked to Louis Vuitton. The leak spread like wildfire. British tabloids slammed it as Diana cosplay turned marketing scheme. American media called it tone deaf, questioning why Meghan would blur emotional history with personal branding. And the French press, always sensitive to legacy and symbolism, condemned it outright. Even some of Meghan's former supporters voiced discomfort. A respected French fashion editor posted bluntly on X, "Love her or not, this crosses an unspoken line. Diana was real. Her tragedy isn't a marketing framework." The message was spreading, and the palace didn't need to say a single word. Behind the scenes, quiet diplomacy kicked in, reinforcing the royal line and steering the public tone back toward dignity and protocol. Then, on December 7, 2025, King Charles gave his official approval to finalize the Windsor Representation Principles. The document was circulated privately to British media networks, international diplomatic offices, and luxury brand executives. The language was sharp, simple, and impossible to misread. Legacy is not licensed. Titles do not authorize commerce. Royal status is not self-declared. Though technically framed as internal policy, the principles instantly reshaped the way global industries operated. PR firms, film studios, and fashion houses began revising their procedures overnight. From that moment on, any project even hinting at royal association was run through a new filter. The question on everyone's lips became, does this align with the Crown's representation policy? And just like that, what started as a family boundary quietly evolved into an industry-wide doctrine, one that separated image from institution and spectacle from legacy. The monarchy hadn't just defended its identity, it had redefined the rules of power in the modern age. A London-based fashion attorney summed it up bluntly: This isn't censorship, it's a firewall against influencer monarchy, another legal insider added with precision. The palace didn't ban Meghan, they just made it impossible for anyone to pretend they speak for them. That distinction changed everything. While Meghan's campaign quietly unraveled, Catherine's popularity soared without her saying a single word. According to a YouGov poll released on December 8th, her approval hit new heights: 76% in the UK, 68% in France, and 59% in the United States, her strongest global ratings yet. And what fueled that rise wasn't spectacle, it was stillness. Just days earlier, on December 5th, Catherine made a surprise visit to the Royal School of Embroidery and Historic Textile Conservation, spending time with female apprentices and spotlighting the bridge between heritage craftsmanship and modern sustainability. Her outfit, a retailored cream coat recycled from a 2021 Remembrance Day event, a subtle nod to continuity and mindful elegance. Fashion editors from British Vogue to W didn't call her a trendsetter, they called her a storyteller. One headline read, "She doesn't just wear clothes, she wears history." Dior even made a quiet update to its official site, featuring her look under a section titled "Timeless Femininity." No mention of her name, but the message couldn't be louder.
On social media, the phrase "soft power style" began trending, contrasting Catherine's effortless composure with Meghan's high-drama aesthetic. One Gen Z influencer in Berlin summed it up perfectly in a viral TikTok. Catherine's style feels like security and intention. Meghan's feels like auditioning. I don't want my icons to look like they're auditioning. The comment racked up millions of views overnight. By December 10th, the professional ripple effects were undeniable. Two stylists publicly confirmed they had cut ties with Meghan's team. A luxury PR firm in New York quietly declined to renew its contract, citing creative misalignment and brand perception shifts. Even an ambassador offer from a sustainable beauty startup was rescinded after one of Princess Diana's former aides spoke out, saying Diana didn't stand for manipulation, she stood for meaning. Even Meghan's planned December charitable project, a maternal health awareness campaign, was drowned out by the noise from her own PR missteps. The tragedy wasn't in the criticism itself, it was that the backlash appeared entirely self-inflicted, driven by a restless need to turn public legacy into a personal platform. Meanwhile, Catherine didn't utter a word. She didn't strike back or posture online. She simply stood still. By doing nothing, she let the institution speak for itself. Meghan, by attempting to occupy a symbolic role never assigned to her, collided head-on with an establishment that doesn't bend to branding. And in that collision, the contrast became undeniable. Two truths emerged before the world's eyes. One woman learning that in monarchy, grace is inherited, not declared. The other proving that in leadership, grace can be earned, silently, steadily, with steel beneath the silk. It all culminated on a snowy morning at Sandringham, where the final note of this saga was struck, not through scandal nor through statement, but through pure, poised clarity. On December 14th, 2025, the night before the royal family's annual Christmas gathering, Kensington Palace released a short video message from the Princess of Wales. Filmed in a softly sunlit corner of her private drawing room, the message centered on her lifelong focus, early childhood development, and women's mental health. But it was the final 30 seconds that left everyone speechless. Catherine looked directly into the camera and said quietly, "Legacy is not something you inherit, it's something you honor. Day by day, quietly, consistently, with the awareness that you are just one link in a very long chain. Never the center, but always responsible." No mention of Dior, no mention of Meghan, no name dropping at all. And yet those words echoed through palace corridors, Paris fashion circles, and PR boardrooms across continents. It was the softest statement of authority imaginable. Grace disguised as clarity. By Christmas morning, things had shifted again. Meghan's team reportedly received formal notices from two luxury houses, one French, one Italian,
politely declining to move forward with any campaign talks. Both cited alignment concerns and legacy sensitivities. A third brand that had shown early interest in a sustainability collaboration quietly froze all communication. A Milan fashion executive, after consulting a UK-based heritage strategist, said it best: "The problem isn't her clothes, it's her context." Meanwhile, inside Dior's headquarters, their internal review of the month-long chaos officially concluded. The brand decided to take no legal action, but it updated its global partnership guidelines to include a new clause: legacy image association risk. The message was subtle but final. Those doors had closed for good. The royal family made no direct comment. That was never their play. Their strategy wasn't about confrontation, it was about restoring order through quiet precision. Clarence House soon updated the official royal website, adding a clear disclaimer: only active members of the royal family may undertake representational or charitable work under the crown seal or historical visual symbolism with prior approval from His Majesty's household. In short, the crown had locked its vault and the keys weren't up for interpretation. Then, as the dust began to settle, Catherine gave a rare interview with Ladies' Journal titled "The Dust Settled." When asked about public image and influence, she answered softly but with unmistakable depth: "I've always believed clothes should support the moment, not overpower it. The women who inspire me most, my mother, my grandmother, and yes, my husband's mother, carried their strength not on their sleeves, but in their silences." That final phrase hit like a quiet thunderclap. And true to form, Catherine let interpretation do the work. No defense, no shade, just wisdom wrapped in restraint. By the end of the year, analysts across fashion, branding, and ethics circles were calling the Catherine-Meghan Dior saga a landmark case study in narrative control. The contrast was textbook. Catherine never posted, Meghan overposted. Catherine honored a tribute, Meghan tried to create one. Catherine embodied duty, Meghan performed visibility. While Meghan's digital fan base in the US stayed loyal, her broader global influence was clearly fading. A mid-December report from Brand Trust Europe summed it up: consumers increasingly favor figures who resist commodifying identity. Meghan's attempt to commercialize royal legacy misread the global mood. Audiences now value authenticity grounded in humility, not spectacle. And through it all, Dior stayed silent. No second statement, no follow-up spin. It didn't need to. Silence had become its most powerful brand asset, perfectly aligned with Catherine's own quiet ethos: measured, symbolic, and profoundly effective. By choosing discretion over debate, Dior preserved its prestige while reaffirming its values through action, not association. In the end, one truth became clear: elegance doesn't chase, it chooses. As the new year dawned, a single photograph went viral, a serene image taken at Sandringham. Catherine walking hand in hand with Prince George and Princess Charlotte across the frosted palace grounds. No stylist, no visible logos, no stage lighting. Just a woman fulfilling her role with calm certainty. The world didn't just see her, they trusted her. And somewhere far from that frame, a message settled quietly across royal halls, luxury boardrooms, and global audiences alike. Legacy isn't what you claim, it's what remains when you no longer need to speak. If you found this breakdown captivating, hit like, subscribe, and share this story. Drop a comment below. Whose approach do you think defines true legacy? Catherine's quiet power or Meghan's brand boldness? Let's talk about who really shapes the future of influence and elegance.